welcome to Mischief Maker podcast, episode 7. It's been so long, we are kind of out of practice and I didn't even know where to start. But so we have lots to talk about. It's been probably over a month, at least over a month since we've filmed an episode because we've been really, really busy, but all good things. So lots of good things to talk about. So my name is Jade. I am Stitch Mischief on Instagram, and you can also find me as Stitch Mischief on Ravelry. And this is
Skylar.
Go ahead. You can. This is Little Stitch Maker on Instagram, and my daughter, she's 10. She's Skylar. And we are your podcaster hosts. This is the first time I've done a podcast without notes, so it might be a big hot mess, but I was so nervous about doing this podcast that I didn't want to get too in my head about it, and I didn't know where to start because there were so many different pieces. And it's also, we want to recap Knit City because that was phenomenal and amazing and so many good things happened, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about finished objects. I have one. So haven't had tons of time for knitting this last month until after Knit City, and then that's pretty much all I wanted to do. I'm trying to remember to look in the right place. So this is the shawl I started. I think I showed it on one of my past episodes. It's called Emmy, and it's by Blue Brick, the yarn, as well as the pattern is by Shireen Nadir and it's on Ravelry. It's called Emmy, EMY. And the whole yarn, everything, it's a gradient. So it starts at this cream and goes all the way down to a chocolatey kind of brown at the bottom. I believe it's called Eggshell. And I absolutely love it. So I whipped that off the needles this week. It's funny when you realize you're so close to the end of a project, you really get motivated to finish it because I was like, yes, done. And it's actually so pretty. I can't wait to wear it. So that was something we finished up. And I pulled out another one that I was kind of close-ish, I think, to finishing. And it's called the Lalo shawl, or the Lalo, or just Lalo. I think it's just Lalo. And it's by Shannon Cook on Instagram. I think she's very Shannon. And I have it on ridiculously short needles because that's all I have at the moment for this size. And it's just this bright kind of fuchsia, orangey, sunset colorway called Love is a Battlefield. And it's hard to see the texture in there. It's okay. But anyways, it's going to be paired with, at the bottom, there's a big band of a contrast color. And so I have this, gray skein of yarn that I'm going to use on the bottom. So kind of a soft, light gray. Oh, we never talked about the elephant in the room. Okay, so we're in the same space that we were podcasting in before, but we redid it. So after Knit City, I had all my shelves, and I didn't really... What is that?
That's the water cooler.
The water cooler? Our water cooler is spazzing out. I thought it was a dishwasher, but I'm like, we didn't put the dishwasher on. So anyways, I had all the shelving from Knit City that I was able to buy, and I didn't really want to store it in our garage, and there we go, silence. And so I ended up deciding to reorganize, to get really, really much, much more organized and sorted out. I moved my zippers up here. I collected books and things that I had been storing all throughout the whole house and moved them all into one spot. So I did a tiny little tour on Instagram, and I think it's in my highlight reel at the top. But so now I have my whole stash. I have all my scraps that are sorted, not counting the giant laundry basket full that I have yet to sort from bag making for Knit City. And then my zippers and my books, and then my rainbow stash here on the side, all the way to the bottom. And it goes Yeah, all the way to the bottom, down to grays and browns and blacks at the bottom. And yeah, so it's different. I'm not sure if you guys are going to like this new setup, but it's much more efficient for us in our room here because I ended up rotating. This used to also be my workspace here. And then I used to have my seating area on that, like where I'm looking now. But now I have a bigger sort of workspace over there, and Skylar's desk too for sewing is on the other side. And we got double windows now, so it's so much brighter. And it just makes more sense. It's just so much better to have it this way. So yeah, it's a little more busy than it was before, but it's much more efficient and tidier in here space-wise. And yeah, so that's our new kind of setup. I hope you guys don't mind it, but it's very fun and I like just looking at it. All my little tiny treasures. And I do miss my quilts, my mini quilts, but in our next house we'll have a place for those too. Yeah. What have you been working on, Sky?
I've been working on my cowl. So I've done quite a few more rows. At least 10. Because now the ball is just tiny.
Your ball is shrinking.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then this, I think there's like 8 more rows, and then I'm done this color, and then I can move on to my next color.
Can you hold it up to the camera a little bit more? So we're a little further back from the camera because I wanted to be able to show the wall. But yeah, she's done really awesome with her knitting. Very dedicated. So we're going to save the Knit City recap till a little bit more in. We have a couple more whips that we've been working on and a couple more projects have started. I totally fell hard off the not starting new project goal. I started, yeah. So what else is though? This is from Knit City. Oh, Ms. Veek. Let me just pop this down here. I also, so I have the 2 shawls I showed you, and then I also have my Zweig sweater. No, I'm saying it wrong. Zweig sweater. Hey, there's a podcast out there that shows how to say all the different names from Caitlin Hunter's patterns, which is lovely. I just thought of something. That thing. Okay. Anyway, so it's Zweig, not Zweig, as I've been saying it wrong. And so I pulled this out of hibernation in the last week or so. Just worried about the microphone and the cooking. And oops. And I had discovered, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but if you do, I had a little tiny realization that I really didn't like my short rows in the back of my neck shaping. And I ripped out my entire sweater and restarted it. And actually, even just holding it up there right now, I wonder if I shouldn't have. I used an alternate cable cast on. I really hope it doesn't wreck the sweater neck. Just because. Let's try it. It's not a great. It's a little bit loose. Anyways, so I restarted it and I did short rows differently. I used. So I talked to Instagram. I threw it out there that I was having problems accepting my other short rows. Then I ripped it out, and then I was chatting with different ones on Instagram, and they recommended trying German short rows, and that was an amazing tip. Also, Caitlin Hunter from Boyland Knitworks, who made the pattern, recommended watching a Craftsy class by someone called Carol Feller. So I did that, and it was very informative. It's a free class on Craftsy. You know what? I'm going to have you scooch a little closer. Can we scooch your desk? I'm kind of over off in the corner and I'm sort of taking up the whole. Sorry, this is our school desk for Gideon. You got it? Okay. All right. There, more in frame. And anyway, so I watched this class and it was super informative for if you were doing regular short rows, and then she has a little technique that she uses on her short rows. I ended up following Very Pink Knits, is another YouTuber. Her tutorial for German short rows was great. And then I reknit my sweater. I still have niggly feelings about this neckline, that maybe I get a little bit choky if things come up too high on my neck, or kind of like feel gaggy. So I wanted it really loose so that I could come down lower on my neck and not make me feel funny. And that's just ever since being pregnant with my last few pregnancies, I found that I can't really wear turtlenecks and things like that. So I redid the lace work, redid everything, redid the short rows, and now. Hi, Atticus. And I love how the lace work's turning out. Oh, and then and then I had problems. I got way farther along in the lace work, and then I realized I'd added 2 extra stitches, but they kind of blended in with the pattern, so it didn't make a difference until I reached a certain point where I was putting in cables. So then I had to rip back my lace again and then redo it. And then someone recommended using, so you can see them dangling here, using little stitch markers to separate each pattern repeat. There. So that's my swag. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. Yeah, so that's, now that I've kind of got the short row sorted out, I'm crossing my fingers once I can get it down off my separate for arms and can test out the neckline. I think it'll be okay. I may have to work some magic and like rework the neckline. I don't know. It might be too big. Anyways, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But yeah, so that's been pretty much, oh, the 2 new patterns that I started. So one was, I don't know what her actual name is. It might be Hunter in real life, but Hunter Hammerson on Instagram came up with this little pattern this week for little tiny knitted acorns. And I fell pretty hard because fall is my favorite season. Forever and ever is my favorite season. And they're just so cute, and they're a good way to use up leftover yarn. Completely useless in terms of practicality, because what can you do with an acorn other than just be adorable? So I made a couple, sorry, I'm bumping forward again. Made a couple of tiny little acorns, and I had the hardest time. So there they are. And Sky loves it. They look like little finger hats. But so this I think was my Vixen colorway here, and then this one is my Falling colorway, which I actually have a skein up here. So this is one of the skeins I brought to Knit City. I'm always looking at the wrong spot in the camera. So Falling, it's my autumn colorway from last year. So anyways, yeah, so acorns. And people are messaging me. There we go. So then we went hunting for acorns with the kids, and guess what? We don't really have big acorns in our neighborhood at all. We have teeny tiny ones that had nuts in them, and they were kind of rotten. And yeah. But I posted about them on Instagram, and then a lovely friend Natalie is going to bring me some from Kelowna, and they're beautiful and big, and some double acorns. So I can't wait to make more acorns. They're so quick too because they're so tiny. And the needles I'm using, especially for the fingering weight ones, are really, really, really tiny. They're 1.5 millimeter or 000 in US sizes. But very fun. And then the other, it feels so weird to be doing a podcast. The other knit that I started was in relation to Knit City. It was the Hastings mitts released by Tracy Miller, because I want to knit everything colorwork right now. And there we go. I'm all tangled here. Yeah, so these are the mitts, and they're on my gray prism background, and then the blue is Caribbean blue lining. And Tracy released these in conjunction with Knit City, which was Amazing. Which I want to talk about. Should we talk about it? Okay. So the reason I couldn't podcast before Net City was I was pretty much, and it probably won't always be like this when getting ready for Net City, but things didn't fall into place until summertime for Net City. So I had to really crunch at the very close to Net City. So when everything sort of lined up right, I ended up working about like 18-hour days. I would basically get up at 5:30 or 5 or 4:30 and work through till midnight and then get up and do it again for weeks. And I don't think I've worked that hard in my life, and it was so worth it. It was so fun. The whole thing was awesome. Fiona and Amanda, the makers of Knit City, Knit Social on Instagram, did such an amazing job of organizing and planning it, to the point where even just like a day or two before Knit City, I realized Skylar didn't have a badge because I used up my badge requirements with my sister, my dad, and my husband to have badges. And so I hadn't thought about, she needs to be able to get in early on Saturday with me because she was going to be there all Knit City. And so I emailed Fiona, and sure enough, we get there and she said, I'll give you a temporary pass, like a guest pass, like generic. And we get there on Friday to set up, and she had a beautiful little badge card all made up for Skylar with her own name on it, and it was just the little touches I really, really appreciated. I don't have much experience with vending. This was my first time, getting comfy. My first time vending, so that was a really big deal for me. And even just talking about it, I'm getting all like nervous and jittery. It was so good though. It was so much work. On Friday, my sister and my dad, they came and we loaded up. I was still winding yarn Friday morning. I was still tagging yarn at Knit City on Friday before it opened, while we were setting up, while my dad was building my shelves. So it helped that we kind of, I don't even know if you guys care about this end of things, but I had set up in my sort of living room, off my living room, which is technically the formal dining room. But we don't use it that way. We use it like a sitting room, kind of a playroom. I had set up a mock Knit City booth taped off on the floor, and I had planned based on my booth location where it was going to be looking at, and the layout, and we built shelves. So I had those set up, and then my dad was able to stabilize them, and then we put them in order. So it was easier to set up at Knit City. So that was really helpful. And he and my sister worked super hard. So did my husband, Sam. So he got to come on Friday and help us set up. And he's never been to Knit City. He's never, any of these sorts of things he's never done. It's just like mythical Knit City. It meant nothing to him. It was just this thing. But when he got there, I think it made a big difference to Sam to see how big Knit City has become, and that it's real, and I don't know, that all the hard work was going to pay off, that it made sense. Anyways, it was just wonderful and magical. And so we set up our booth, and it was colorful and lit up and bright. It just made me so happy to have the booth set up. And Skylar's texting me, can you send me pictures of the booth? And super excited about going the next day. So thankfully I had my sister, because I am completely hopeless with figuring out stuff like Square. Like, we got it figured out because it was my first time vending in person before without using a computer online store to set up. So she has experience with that, and even now Sky does too. Sky was doing sales and processing payments, and it was just amazing. So we got in there. So it's all set up on Friday. I came home. I think did I sew some more? I can't remember. It was not on Friday night, Saturday night. It was very exciting. Just very exciting. I've mentioned this before, I've wanted to vend at Knit City before, but I think I never would have been ready for it until this year. So actually making that little dream a reality was, I keep saying very exciting, but it was very, it meant a lot to me to make that happen. And it proved to me that really hard work can pay off. So yeah, so we got ready Saturday morning. We got in there, and I still, of course, we were pricing bags, I think, still, right? Yeah, Saturday morning we priced bags. What else did we do? Before it opened. So it opened to the public at 9:00. And there were a few sales from people right before, like other vendors who wouldn't be able to get over when it was on. Because I know I sure had a hard time getting around to booths that I wanted to see with this, being a vendor. It's different when you're not just there to shop and to look around. Actually, I think I ran over to, okay, so one of my top places I wanted to get yarn was from Gauge Dye Works. And every Knit City, I always get a skein of her yarn, at least one. And I didn't know what skein I wanted, but I ran over like a few minutes before we opened. I ran over, I talked to Rebecca, I think her name's Yannick on IANOOK on Instagram, and I just saw the skein. I'm like, I know this is the one I want, but I didn't have my money with me. I had just run over to see. So then I went back to my booth, sent Sam back. I'm like, talk to her. This person, she knows what I want. She knows the skein. She knows the type. And then can you just buy me the skein yarn while we're doing stuff at our booth? So we were kind of farther back from the entrance. So it took a tiny bit of time for people to move into the building. I heard the lineup was very, very, very long. Even later in the morning, it was still ongoing, the lineup, which was crazy. Knit City has grown so much from the days back when it was in the Croatian Cultural Center. I have something in my eye. But yeah, so what was your thoughts on Knit City?
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Just like I've never really been at Knit City other than to look at stuff or buy stuff. It's just being there and helping with the paying and packing stuff up. Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm. I got the phrasing mixed up.
So you help pack orders with Auntie. So that was super helpful. And yeah, this was this was special and very, very bizarre feeling on our end because we're just regular folks, but we were asked to autograph patterns. I ended up getting patterns printed last minute. It was, somebody had asked me, I forget now, if I was going to be having my Finch Bucket patterns in paper copy at Knit City. And so I had arranged, it took a little while to get them, find the right printer for us. And we did, though. We found the right printer. And thank goodness to everybody out there who helped me when I messaged you on Instagram going, how do you get your patterns printed? Because my first quote for getting patterns printed was between $6.50 or something and $8 a pattern. It would cost me to have printed. So yes, there's a lot of pages in it, but that was an astronomical price. And there's no way I would literally be paying money to sell the pattern. So it just didn't make sense. And also because the other reason I was getting patterns printed was because I've had some wholesale requests, and I'm finally, now that Knit City's done, getting to move forward with those. And that has been unbelievably exciting too. So we had printed patterns. I thought I was going to bring some to Knit City and just see how that goes. I wasn't sure if that would do well. And I think that was one of our top selling items actually, was printed patterns. And some amazingly sweet people had both of us autograph the patterns, which was just so sweet. Like,
I've never autographed anything.
I know. woo, never autographed anything before myself. So that was really fun. And getting to meet so many of you guys, like everywhere I was going, I was running into people and they're like, we watch your podcast. And I'm brushing my teeth and they're like, we watch your podcast. Both days I brushed my teeth after lunch. Both times I ran into people who follow along, and I was just so like, I can't believe I'm brushing my teeth in front of you, but green falafel. So it needed to be done. But it was just very awesome. And in the morning we got to meet, you probably don't know who she is, but, and embarrassingly, I didn't really know who she was either until later, but, I got to meet, Helen Stewart of Curious Handmaids. She has a podcast and, is a Ravelry pattern designer, knitwear designer. And she's just lovely. So she came in, she was one of our first customers, and she bought lots of bags, some for gifts and some for her. So that was exciting. I did not expect the bags to sell out so fast, to the point where I ended up having to go home that night and sew, because I had more bags ready to be finished, but I hadn't had the time to finish them beforehand. So I went home that Saturday night and sewed. But anyway, so we met Helen Stewart, and then there were just so many of you guys, the Suburban Stitcher, Deanne, and just so many new friends and so many old friends and so many people that had made Finch buckets and wanted to show me pictures or show me their actual finished bags. It was just really, really special. And we got to meet Tracy and Jody from the Grocery Girls. I know Sky's a big fan. I'm a big fan. And that was lovely to get to meet them. And you've heard me talk about Hugh Local before. Nicole, as being one of my inspirers to dye yarn. And she was there with the Grocery Girls. And she's just such a lovely person in person. Like, you never know how people are going to be in a relaxed setting or whatever, but she's just precious and so kind. And she surprised me with a skein of yarn that was a gift that I did not, of course I never could have ever expected any of this. So I did not expect this gift of yarn. Actually, I should show you. So this is my gauge dye works. I'm going to cover the microphone. So this is the skein yarn from Nicole. I always think it's backwards, but I don't think it is. And it's on her new merino cashmere nylon base called Vintage Sock. And yeah, she said there's only 12 in the world. And I love it. It's super soft and squishy and very special. Oh, and this is the skein of yarn that I got from Gauge Dye Works at her booth when I went down over for. And it's called Strathcona. Gauge Dye Works. And the color is Strathcona. And it's also it's 70% merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it's absolutely lovely to squish. It's just so beautiful. And this I'm going to knit the new pattern. It's not new. It's new. It was part of a club that Andrea Rangel did up with Kat from Gauge Dye Works last year, but it just kind of got released to the public this year. And it's called Goldstream. That's what it is. And it's gorgeous. The pattern, because Kat is a self-striping yarn dyer, the way I believe the pattern works is you're knitting, and then when you get a little color change, you start to do back and forth short rows, and it makes these little leaves floating across the shawl. So it gives the impression of, it kind of is like a painting of, it looks like sort of like a painting of a river with water flowing down with leaves floating down. So it's a beautiful pattern. You should look it up. Yeah. So there's tiny little bits of color in there that are going to be the leaves.
Oh, it's green.
Yeah. So those were 2 of my acquisitions. The last day, yeah. So we met, meeting the grocery girls. This is the problem with not having notes. I forget what I'm doing. I managed to squeak in a quick little visit over at Julie Aslan's booth. Julie's a friend of mine. We're both Quebecois. And at her booth, sorry for the crinkling, she had, I think her booth was co-done with Pom Pom Magazine, also Jose Pequin from You and I Knit, and then they had a signing of Vera and Hohi's book, Interpretations number 4. And now I didn't realize this wasn't the most recent one. There's another one. I think I should have, I'm not up on things like this. I'm still learning. But this pattern book, just flipping through it, has so many patterns that I want to make in it already, which is why I'm trying to get through my WIP so I can guilt-free just go through and knit all the things. But they were absolutely lovely in person, and they signed my copy, so that was exciting. And I did some last-minute purchasing on Sunday because I kept forgetting that there was places I wanted to go to, but I was so busy at the booth that I didn't get to run out. But I did manage to get over to see Sandy of Firefly Lane. Nope. Yes. Yes. No, not Firefly Lane. That's a book. Firefly Notes. Firefly Lane is a Christian Hannah book, which is really good. And very, very tear-inducing, so don't read it unless you want to cry. And I found some stitch markers from her, and I got these little adorable, it's hard to see, but they're rain, there's a little tiny umbrella in it, a little rain, and they're raindrop stitch markers. And also an adorable little toadstool stitch marker set. As well as, she does enamel work. I don't know how that all works, but, okay, that's it with the crunching, sorry. And then she did these little cherry cans to get the glare on it. And then I had to get the mini one too because everything's better tiny. So these were my little treasures from Sandy. I'm just going to tuck them over here. But yeah, so we learned a lot. Oh, and Skylar got her own little good. She had, well, she and the kids have been doing so much to help out with getting ready for Knit City and helping with the little kids that I gave them each amounts of money that they could spend as they wanted. And Sky chose to do some shopping at Knit City, and yeah, so we can go for it. You talk. I will take a break.
So I first got a Woodland Gnome Felting Kit by Nancy Designs. If you can see it.
Yeah, there we go. And it's a little tiny gnome. So she kind of checked out the whole marketplace. You can talk. You say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to talk over you.
Yeah, so she had stuff like bee kits. I think it was a winter gnome kit. A whole bunch of kits, just these cute little things. So this kit, it comes with enough wool to make 2 little gnomes. So I made one at Knit City. Here we go. So I made.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I'm still too far. I'm still too far.
Okay, I'll switch for it for you. So it's this tiny, tiny little gnome. How adorable. See that little beard? What type of fiber is that? I forget.
Gotland.
Wool?
Gotland. Yeah, I think it's a special type of sheep.
His little nose and then his little beard. Super cute little gnome. Good job.
And then it also came with, I think this is very handy, it came with foam. So if you're doing something that's felting, foam mat is helpful. I just use our play mats since I don't have foam mat, but that one's very useful. And I think this might be one of the best parts of the stuff I got at Knit City.
What was?
I think this is one of the best things I got at Knit City. So it's a drop spindle. So it's like hand spinning yarn. It twists the fibers and it's so fun and so cool. It was just amazing.
So Sky, well, you can talk about all the different people you met that taught you. Do you remember the lady?
Yeah.
What her name was?
No, I don't think I learned her name.
You didn't know her name? Okay.
Yeah, but she had drop spindles and she had wool and she showed people how to do it. So I got to try with some of her wool and then I ended up getting it.
So that was really special. And then of course she wanted the 1 day plan. What type of spindle do you want? Long term?
Like an actual.
Yeah, you were checking out the Ashford booth.
Yeah, there was an Ashford Wheels and Looms. So they have spinning wheels, they have brushes, they have yarn, they have wool, they have motorized spinning wheels, they have like all sorts of stuff for yarn making and just yarn. Like, I'm pretty sure I was looking in their catalog and I saw they have silk mixed with alpaca.
Ooh.
And it was shiny.
Oh, alpaca.
Alpaca. So I got a bag of white alpaca wool. That I got from Twisted Sisters and Company. So I think of it as a bag of cloud.
A bag of cloud.
It's just so fluffy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that when I get a bit better at drop spindling.
Where's the yarn that you made off the... Why is your spindle empty? Oh, you took it off?
Oh, yeah. I actually have a bag of my practice ones. It is... a little bag. These ones were the first ones, and I got better and better at making it less big, small, big, small.
It takes practice.
Yep.
Yeah, I know nothing about spinning, so I'm kind of useless here to help her because I know zero. I think I've held a drop spindle a little bit one time years ago, but that's it.
Okay, so this one was the first one. It's like super thick, and then...
That's when you were getting frustrated at Knit City, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and she was expecting to be perfect at it right off the get-go, which didn't work, unfortunately. If only, right?
Yeah. So, I have a bag of felting wool. So I decided to use some white wool roving, so I kept getting better. Actually, I might go get the one from my bedroom. That was the most recent one. Sorry about getting up so much.
That's okay. So something interesting, I think, about these types of shows like Knit City is letting her go and explore and pursue what she's interested in, not just something that I'm interested in, or it was just very interesting to see her have her own goals and her own dreams with fibers and interests. It's just it's very cool. I'm very proud of her. So far, so good. The baby hasn't napped yet today, so we are kind of hoping he stays calm. That's the yarn I was thinking of. It's kind of fun. Pardon walking in front of the camera.
Yeah, I was in the middle of doing this one, so there's a whole bunch of...
Yeah, so there's your loose roving at the end. So you're definitely getting more finer.
Oh, there's still a lot of string in there. It's like crunching together. But so it got...
You have to hold it up to the camera because there's no way they can see that from here.
So it got a lot finer compared to
the beginning.
This and the other one. It's like a million times fluffier. So it turns out you have to be in a more relaxed environment.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was
I
a lot
was getting
more
stressed out when people were watching her learn how to drop spindle, and
they were asking
questions
like, how does it work? And I'm like, I just got it today. I don't know.
But you're doing awesome and you're practicing a lot, so that's really good. So that's fun. What else? So that was most of everything. Oh yeah, and then I had a last final impulse purchase. Just get the crunch. It's okay. Don't bother shutting it. That's good. From Lichen and Lace. Sorry, I'm just crocheting while we're talking here. And these aren't really my colors. Usually I don't tend to veer towards autumnal colors, but this is, let's see if that's coming in. Yeah, it's relatively, I find this color extremely hard to capture. It's more neutral than it's showing here. It's showing quite orangey, but it's a little bit more soft than that. See, it has bits of there. And then I got the mohair, and this is showing up way redder than it is. It's called Coral. This one's called Faded Rose. And see, that looks kind of more accurate right there. And I bought enough to make an Elton by Hohi. And I think these colors might work for my face. I don't know. I'm sort of second guessing myself a little bit now. But yeah, so that was pretty much all my Knit City treasures. But the best treasures were all the people I got to meet and talk to. It was so good. I can't wait for next year. It's so funny. Some people are like, oh my goodness, this was whatever, tiring or exhausted. I just came home from Knit City and I was revved up and ready to go. And I went for a couple days straight of like organizing and building shelves and going crazy. And then by 1 week after Knit City, I crashed pretty hard. I had a cold. I think it's just a side effect of being around so many people. But I got pretty sick. And then it started going through my family, and now it's finally hitting the strongest immune systems in our family, which tells me I'm getting it again because I'm starting to feel a little bit, not so good. But yeah, so that's why we were 1 more week behind. We wanted to podcast last week, but there was just too much snot and coughing and general misery. What's wrong?
I hear something knocking.
That's okay.
I'm just wondering what it is.
It's just a baby.
I'm sorry if Alex is knocking.
Yeah, that's okay. You can knock. We're almost done. So then I have tons and tons of yarn. I have exactly like 2 bags left from Knit City because of the ones that I sewed last minute, and then 1 tiny little wee bra, which I'll be listing. And shelves of yarn to list. And every time I start to take pictures, I start to get nigglings of a migraine. So something about the flash and light being like the camera. So I just need to buckle down and list it. But I have tons and tons of yarn to list. So that's coming. I don't have a date on that yet, but I will post by Instagram. And I'm just going to show you some yarn. I kind of definitely, when I dyed yarn for Knit City, I tried to focus on colors that I've used in the past. And so I had my bauble shawl and my cousin's bauble shawl that she knit out of my Pacific collection. I did one way in the Pacific collection, she did the other way. And so I had the entire Pacific collection on different bases. So this is a new base to our shop. And it's showing like black, but it's not. It's a deep navy. And this base is 100% superwash merino. And it is a high twist single ply yarn. And I really love it. So I did lots of my Pacific line on that. So that line has like navy. It has like an electric coral, which, wow, really, really blows out on the camera because it has fluorescent qualities to it. It's a coral.
It almost looks like it's its own like, light on its camera.
And then with that, okay, this is the same base here. There's Coastal, which has, it's like a soft gray with, yeah, with coral speckles and navy speckles in it. So that's part of my Pacific collection. And then it had, yeah, so then I have coastal on a different base. This is my decadent fingering base, which I absolutely love. And it doesn't say on the pack on the wrapping, but the decadent fingering base is 17 micron. So it's extremely fine merino. And it's very, very fluffy. I just love it. Super soft. So that's coastal. And then of course I have the navy Pacific. And so these are all part of the Pacific collection. So I definitely focused on that. Fog, which is a very nice neutral kind of gray. And I'm just covering my seat with yarn. And then this is what I knit my baubles. One of the colors I use Pacific, and then this one, it's called Orchis Island. And it has my color doubloon there. It's like a mustard and navy throughout. So Orchis Island. And then this is the doubloon I was talking about. So this is also on a it's on across all the bases, but I also have it. This is called Silky Singles, and it's 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. It is absolutely amazing, and it's the same base that I'm using. See if I can show you. It's the same base that I'm using on in my Birds of a Feather shawl. So that creamy sort of base, not the mohair, but the other one is this base. So this is doubloon, like the gold. And then this is reef, the same coral as the other one, but in, wow, that's blown out. I don't know how to make that not blow out. Yeah. It does not look like that in real life. It is not quite so radioactive, but
it's more orangey than pink.
Yeah, it's coral. It's kind of,
yeah. But
yeah,
if you look
on
at
there, this is showing up a bit more fuchsia or something, but it's not. I hear a baby screaming. It's time. So that's pretty much my, yeah, and some more doubloon. That's pretty much my, oh, no, I also have Orchis Mist, sorry. Oh, this one's coming undone. On my decadent fingering base as well, which is a soft mint. It's reading greener than it is in real life, but yeah, so I've got to get all these photos taken. And then I have all the yarn that I did my Birds of a Feather on, because why reinvent the wheel? So those are going to be going into the shop. And then lots of other colors. But yeah, so that's something I need to work on this week and not stress myself out about, just get it done. But after I've done this update, sorry, I'm trying to find my seat again. I am going to be changing how I do my yarn. So I discovered at Knit City when I was looking at other booths and stuff that I don't really have a palette of colors yet. I've just got the yarn that I've been working with in the past and have dyed. But I really want to change how I update yarn because I find it stressful to have to take pictures of every skein of yarn that I do every time I dye yarn. So in the future, I think I'm going to change my site to have a yarns page and a colors page, and to have more regular colors that are reappearing, so I don't need to rephotograph, because that is literally my least favorite part of the job. I like photography. I dislike the pressure of yarn photography, because to make it perfect is really stressful, and to make sure that it reads as accurately as possible is also really stressful. But yeah, so that's my goal, And I have a whole bunch of yarn on the way to me, so I'm going to be dyeing again. I missed it. I did so much dyeing in the weeks before Knit City, and I completely missed it. I dyed everything I had to dye. So I have no bare yarn to dye, and I really would like to get back at it because I have some color ideas and some plans. I want to start building out my color palette. And yeah, I'm really interested if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on color palette, like, I don't know. Anyways, that's just a thought. Maybe less speckles, maybe more semi-solids. So that's the direction that's going in. And I always want to make bags. They're just so fun to make. But yeah, so that was what I learned from Knit City. And it was wonderful and so worth it. But we're back to podcasting and back to regular filming, and hopefully nobody else will get sick and make us have to be late or whatever. But yeah, last week was just insane. I also burnt my hand really bad like a week ago. Was it Tuesday last week?
It was.
I think so. Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was cooking this recipe for pork tenderloin with apples and onions. And the recipe has you cook it on the stove, and then you put it in the oven, and then you pull it out of the oven and you cook it some more and kind of make the sauce. And I just pulled it out of the oven with a mitt, remembered it was hot. Like, I knew it was hot because it got hot through the mitt. It was so hot. And then I put my hand, I went to turn the pan the other way so that the handle was on the other side. And I completely seared my palm, like seared, like a white chicken breast. You know, if you like put a pan of meat on a pan and it goes white. And I was underwater within seconds, but it was incredibly painful. And we've had I'm a chronic burner of myself, accidentally, always, the klutz. And so we've learned over the last year to use lavender oil and cream. And then I've also learned that putting like a glove or something like a disposable glove over top really helps keep away the pain. So I did that right away. So we were able to eat dinner or whatever, but I put like tons of lavender oil and cream. Oh, there he goes. And slathered it in hand cream and put it on a glove on top. But by about an hour later, it was torture. Like, it was so painful. And my husband was kind of joking, like, do I need to take you to the hospital? And then finally he's like, I need to take you to the hospital. So he dropped me off at the ER. And I got it treated after having the most uncomfortable ER waiting room experience with a guy who just totally embarrassed himself hitting on me. But anyways, that was so awkward. The poor nurse in the other room, she's like, I wish I could have come out and pulled you in earlier. But yeah, some guys. Anyways, so they had this gel that they treated. They expected me to have to come back in the next day or two and have my blisters treated and taken care of and like disinfected or whatever. And then they covered my hands with this gel called Intrasite gel and wrapped it all up. And I slept with that. And then thankfully they gave me some painkillers that were more effective than my home painkillers so that I could sleep that night. When I woke up in the morning, I took off my band-aids because they were starting to fall off. And my hand was so much better. I could knit. There were no blisters. I've never seen a burn do that. Like, you can just see kind of a little bit. We're seeing here all through my fingers. And it was just nothing. A week later, and you can't even tell. It was just so ridiculous. I was so upset. I thought I wouldn't be able to knit for a long time. I couldn't even put my hands near warm water that night. I couldn't wash my face. I couldn't do my pants. Like, it was insanely painful. And now it's gone. So anyways, lavender oil. I have a suspicion it was a combination of the lavender oil, immediate water, and that Intrasite gel, which I have no idea what it was, but it worked really, really well. So yeah, here's to getting things taken care of. Whereas on the other hand, here's a burn I did not take care of, and I'm still scarring from that. Yeah, just because I burn myself all the time on irons, on stoves, ovens, you name it. But yeah, the proof of taking care of a burn versus not taking care of a burn is a big difference. Anyway, so that was last week, and there's just been so much chaos and getting back into the swing of school, and that's been fun, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so excited that we're back to the regular swing of things, and I hope I didn't make too much of a hot mess of it without an actual script. So we this was a Knit City recap-y kind of one. Did I mention our Ravelry group? I don't think I did. We have a Ravelry group called the Mischief Maker podcast, and that's where you'll also find me and my daughter she's not on Ravelry, but we are on Instagram. So she's Little Stitch Maker, I'm Stitch Mischief, and I think we should call it a day because I hear a little baby who needs to nap before dinner. So thank you so much for tuning in with us. Sorry for chatting your ear off. I suspect we went way more longer than we planned. But yeah. Oh, we also had to rig. We're doing a different not camera setup, but camera recording setup because my mic's not working. I don't know what's wrong with it. But it's not working with my phone. So we have a different setup. I hope I didn't botch everything by doing it this way, but if it's kind of funky, I need to work out the kinks on that still. But yeah, so we will see you next week and hopefully have some more finished goods. And what's that? Did you forget the scissors? Oh, no. No, we'll show this next week. Yeah. So we'll have more to share next week, and we can't wait to see you then. Thanks. Bye.